so much to all of you, Jad, Abby, Soloni, Maya, Tal, Carmen, Mahon, and Soya.
My name is Maya. I'm a second-year student here at UVic, and I attend the Interfaith Chapel a lot, doing events like Wine Before Supper, and Bible study, and some meditation, and yeah, I'm really happy to be speaking for you all today. I did prepare something, so I better start reading if I'm going to finish this in 3 minutes. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. These words come from one of the parables of Jesus in the book of Matthew, and highlights an important theme within the Christian tradition. How we treat other people is a direct reflection of our respect and reverence for the divine, because the divine is in each and every one of us. Jesus tells us that whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Lowliness and holiness are inexorably connected. The Son of God enters the human world as a vulnerable baby born in a stable, and spends his life mission fighting against corruption and promoting the interests of the poor and marginalized, dying a criminal's death on the cross. It's easy to forget because in many cultures Christianity became a mainstream and status quo religion, but Jesus lived on the edges of his society. From a humble family, he openly resisted the religious authorities of his day, exalted the poor and downtrodden, and associated with those that the rest of society spurned, eating with prostitutes and tax collectors. The last shall be first, Jesus tells us, reminding us that the earthly divisions that we draw between ourselves are invisible from a heavenly gaze. Rather than turning away from those who are different from us, or who scare us, or who our cultural traditions tell us to look down on, the gospel invites us to follow Jesus' example and enter into relationship, learning how to eat, speak, and live alongside each other in mutual respect and community. In the book of Leviticus, we're implored to treat the stranger who sojourns with you as a native among you and love them as yourself. We know that we're able to strive for this vision of radical welcoming because we love as he first loved us, but our human prejudices and fear can often hinder this process. In an interesting story from the book of Matthew, a Canaanite woman approaches Jesus asking him to heal her daughter. Jesus at first rebuffs her, stating that he was sent foremost for the deliverance of the Israeli people, and that it is not right to toss the children's food to the dogs. Dogs eat the crumbs that fall off the table, the woman replies, and Jesus, impressed by her wisdom, tells her that her faith has made her daughter well. The words that Jesus speaks in this story seem ugly and stingy, and he himself seems to be caught in myopic tribalism. Jesus was God and human combined, and it would appear that here he speaks out of the part of himself that is human, with all its frailties and faults and fears. The woman's response reminds him of this, and in a sense, he is humbled by her. Although this story can make us uncomfortable, as it shows a fallibility in Jesus' character, it also shows us that this stranger, a woman and a foreigner, can teach the teacher, the great rabbi, a lesson about inclusivity and grace. There will be times, many more times for us, as we are more flawed, when we too will act out of our human prejudice and small-mindedness. And that's okay. What's important is that we take these chances to learn and grow and be corrected, just as Jesus did in that story. A few years ago, I lived in Australia for a while, teaching at school. One of the teachers there was a very kind woman from Vanuatu who took the time to teach me how to basket weave. While we worked, Auntie Marianne and I would sing hymns together, a particular favorite being Amazing Grace. One day, I asked her what denomination she was from, and she told me, to my surprise, that she wasn't Christian at all. Her faith tradition was Baha'i, a tradition which upholds interfaith ecumenicalism and unity between all religions. Despite our different backgrounds, we connected on a deep level that was spiritually enriching. I have about 2 more sentences to go, so I'm going to finish. This was an important lesson and a reminder to me that at the end of the day, what matters above all the rest is that there is a grace, it is amazing, and it is here to save and save all of us. Thank you so much for listening to me today.
Okay. 4 minutes?
Yeah.
Alright, hi there everyone. My name is Soloni Shavle. I am currently studying at UVic, majoring in sociology, minoring in social justice, and I'm born and raised from Kenya, the land of Hakuna Matata. So my religion is actually on Jainism. Jainism is all about peace and not harming any living organisms, be it a plant, animal, or even human beings for that matter. So thus, this religion's main essence is being respectful to one's surroundings, despite of their age, race, religion, or even their ethnicity, for that matter. Jainism has 5 main principles. The first principle is nonviolence, which is also known as ahimsa, where you're not allowed to injure, abuse, oppress, insult, or even kill any creature. The second principle is truth, which is satya, which is best known for Mahatma Gandhi's Satyagraha, which means truth prevails. The third is asteya, which means non-stealing. The idea of taking one's property or belongings without consent is known as an immoral act. Even accepting alms or aid for that matter, it's been said that one should not take more than needed. The fourth is brahmacharya, which means chastity, which is abstaining from sensual pleasures and pleasures of 5 senses, which is called celibacy. Monks are very, very strictly advised to take this vow, and have also been required that they are literally abstaining from this, which is very, very strict, again, emphasizing on that bit. The fifth one is non-attachment and possession, which is apragaha, which means when one has wealth and possessions, they're more likely to commit a sin just to maintain or acquire more of the wealth and these possessions, in the longer run resulting into being unhappy and also at the same time being more greedy and also egoistic. And you would also find yourself in a more hatred, mindful way, and you're likely to commit a crime because of being so much like a lot going on in your head and like trying to be gaining a lot of wealth through this. Lord Mahavir once said that wants and desires have no end, and only the sky is the limit to them. Hence, Jainism talks to diversity by respecting different perspectives and personas of life, living things, and living things as a whole. Like I say in Kenya, Asante Sana. Thank you.
My name is Carmel, and I'm a Baha'i, and I'm studying child and youth care. I'm in my final semester of the program, and I'm doing my practicum with Multi-Faith Services at the School of Child and Youth Care. My goal is to learn about how spiritual care and wellness can be applied, like learning about the programs in terms of how that's delivered here, and then taking that to students in child and youth care in workshops or like group activities. So yeah, I'm just gonna start. So basically, the Baha'i Faith is a new and independent world religion that was founded in the 19th century in Iran. It was founded by Baha'u'llah, which means the glory of God in Arabic. And 3 of the main central teachings are that there is one God, and that the various world religions come from the same God, the same creator, and they actually come to humanity as various chapters of one ongoing faith. I'm just going to stand here if that's okay. So basically, God sends these divine educators to humanity as humanity advances and matures and brings us new spiritual teachings. So the third main principle is that humanity is one, and that today, in this day and age, we're ready to start working towards that oneness. So today's theme is reconciliation and diversity, and in the Baha'i teachings, as we orient our perspective to truly see humanity as one, we're asked to embrace the unity in our diversity. So if we imagine humanity as a garden, and all the colors that people represent are different flowers in this garden, if all the flowers were the same color and the same shape, then they would be pretty dull. It'd be a pretty boring garden. But if all these flowers have different shapes and different sizes and different fragrances growing together side by side, then it would add so much more to its beauty. So if we imagine humanity as this garden, all these flowers receive rain from the same source and also light from the same sun. And in the same way, we have the same roots and we come from one creator. So, and like the other interesting thing is, if we see humanity in this way, it's also similar to considering how different notes and chords can make a beautiful song as well. So, among the diversity that we can imagine in this human garden is that Baha'u'llah teaches that every human being is created essentially noble and good inherently, and regardless of race, religion, creed, class, or gender, we should see every human being as a mine rich in gems of inestimable value. So one of the practices of the faith that involves diversity is consultation. Aside from seeking professional advice or guidance, the Baha'i Writings has given consultation a wider meaning in introducing the idea of spiritual consultation. And basically, I'm just going to wrap it up. The goal of consulting requires investigating the truth. So, in the Baha'i Writings, it says, "He who expresses an opinion should not voice it as correct and right, but set it forth as a contribution to the consensus of opinion. For the light of reality becomes apparent when two opinions coincide. A spark is produced when flint and steel come together. Man should weigh his opinions with the utmost serenity, calmness, and composure. Before expressing his own views, he should carefully consider the views already advanced by others." So that's basically what I have to share, and yeah.
Hello, everybody. So I came today knowing what I want to say, but I still haven't quite picked the words, so I hope I choose them well as I go along. My name is Tal. I'm a Jewish student here at UVic. I'm in my second or third year of engineering. It gets a little complicated, but otherwise I think you're going to get to know me better as I talk about my spirituality. So I'm going to just go straight into that. So for me, spirituality has never just been with a higher power or something greater than ourselves. It's also the connection between people. And I think that that's an inherently Jewish thing. To connect with the other people and to have a sense of oneness with other people based on what you believe, shared beliefs, is a deep, deep part of what we believe in. Or at least part of what I believe in. I think a great example of that is a trip I did a little while ago to Israel. I went there by myself. I didn't know anyone with this group, these people I'd never met before. I met them at the airport. We got on the plane. We got there. There were people, all different skin colors, all different sexual orientations, just a huge variety of people. And the thing that brought us all together was our spirituality. And we got on this bus when we got to the airport, and we all became friends within a matter of hours. And within a matter of days, we were a family. I still have one of them as my sister on Facebook, which is pretty intense. And the thing that brought us together was spirituality. It was a feeling of connection to each other and to a greater power. I mean, when you go to Israel, it's a place where it really helps you believe in whatever you believe in. It will strengthen your belief. You'll see people of every possible ideology, every possible skin color, every different type of person you can imagine. There is one there. And they work together, they live together, almost always in harmony. But you'll hear about it when not. But most of the time it's in harmony. And it's so beautiful to see. And you can see that they do such powerful things there. Like, they're world leaders in sustainable agriculture and high technology things. And it's when people work together, they're brought together by an idea, by a belief, and that makes them not really worry about skin color or any other difference. The differences become irrelevant when you have a belief that you share with other people. And I think that it's not necessarily just my spirituality. I think that everyone's spirituality pushes them to be together with their people. And for me, I find that it's very easy as a Jew, because the Jews have always been pushed together, because often people don't like the Jews. But we help each other. We're a tight community, and we're brought together by our beliefs. And I think that's beautiful. I have friends in all different cultures, all different belief systems, and none of us care about our differences because we all have something, regardless of what it is, that brings us together. And I think that that's what's important here. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say.
But I'll tell you a little story. When I was little, I'm Muslim by the way, and I've been praying 5 times a day. And when I was little, anytime I would have a fight with my little sister, I would not stand next to her and pray. So when we pray as Muslims, we stand in a line, and whoever comes, they stand right next to you, and you close your eyes and you pray together. And I would not pray next to her. And like, I do not want to touch her shoulder. I don't want to stand next to her. I don't like her right now. And my mom would tell me that if you leave gap between her, there's going to be some weird creature standing right next to you, and you're going to be praying, but that creature is right there watching you. And that was ingrained in my head. And it wasn't until I was older that I realized the significance behind that really insignificant thing of standing shoulder to shoulder while praying. When you're praying, you're at your most vulnerable. Sometimes people cry when they're praying. And standing next to someone you don't like, maybe in everyday life, it's pretty powerful. And Islam teaches us that when you fill up a masjid, a mosque, whoever comes first, they stand first in the corner. Whoever comes second, they stand right next to each other. And when you start praying, you should all be shoulder to shoulder to shoulder. And it does not matter what the person looks like. It does not matter if they're rich. It does not matter if they're poor. You stand next to each other and you pray to the person, or to the God who created you, together. And that was a pretty groundbreaking thing that I realized when I was older, because I imagine Jeff Bezos, one of the richest people alive, praying next to a homeless person. Can you imagine that? It's pretty powerful. And then the same sense of community and diversity extends to people who are not Muslim. Whether you're Muslim or you're not Muslim, Islam teaches us you do not get to pick who you respect or who you do not respect. God created everyone. It's not your choice to dismiss someone or not respect someone based on what they look like, what they believe in. And it wasn't until I was older and I learned arrogance from adults around me that I realized how powerful my spirituality has taught me things, and how it's just increased my sense of community and just learning how to live in such a diverse world around me. That's all I have.
Hello, my name is Shoya. I have a degree here in philosophy and religious studies, and I'm doing computer science, so still technically an undergrad. I've been asked to represent the Buddhist perspective, although I wouldn't technically identify as Buddhist. I have studied in monasteries in Japan and India, and Buddhism has been a significant influence in my life for sure. So I'm going to speak a little bit from that background today. One of the core, fundamental processes in Buddhism is meditation, and that process of self-reflection. And one of the core tenets of Buddhism is that if you do that enough, you realize that all the things that make up who you think you are and yourself, and these concrete concepts that you have about who you are, all fall away, and you realize that they're all pretty irrelevant. And so in Zen, they call this, when you reach that state, the beginner's mind. And so it allows you to come into every situation with a fresh mind and a fresh perspective. And so when you meet somebody who might be of a diverse background, all of those prejudices, thoughts, processes that are ingrained in us through society and conditioning and culture, you can observe those arise and realize that they aren't really reflective of the reality in front of you, and lets you let that pass and then allow you to operate from a perspective of a beginner, as if someone who's just met this situation just new, just fresh, without any of those previous conditions. This is the most fundamental element of Buddhism, and why everyone, I think, appreciates the meditation element, is because that self-reflection and that self-process allows us to do this on an ongoing basis. Every day you meditate, you process, you interact with a situation, and through self-reflection and self-development and considering who we are and all these things that we think are central but maybe aren't quite as central as we think they are. When we allow ourselves to move past them, it allows us to move through any issue that may be brought up by diversity, and essentially makes it an even playing field, and it allows you to interact freely and openly with all the people around you. That for me is my personal experience with Buddhism, and I think it's a very simple and clear and direct way to approach it, and so I will leave it there.
Stop fast. So my name is Abby Schmerko. I am a third-year psychology major here at the University of Victoria. I'm originally from Calgary, Alberta. Woohoo! It's really cold there right now. Anyways, so I am agnostic, so I don't necessarily follow a specific faith, and I'm gonna kind of talk to you about a personal experience I had that really made me consider my spirituality. So my dad told me when I was little, be amazed at everything around you. And I didn't really realize the significance when I was little, and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And now that I'm older, I really appreciate it, and it's become a really big part of who I am and a really big part of my spirituality. How would I word this? Just being amazed with the trees and how they got there, the people around me and what they've faced to get to where they are, and it really stuck with me. And then I'm gonna quote my uncle as well, who said, keep on keeping on. And he recently passed, and that was really hard for me. He was very religious, and his funeral was a very big religious event, and which was very strange for me because I'd never been to church. I'd never really felt connected at all, and he bridged a little bit of a connection for me and made me start questioning more and more how I was feeling. And you know, he was a really, really important person in my life, so it really hit home. And like I said, it began broadening my horizons on religion and my own spirituality. But I wasn't raised in a specific faith, but I was surrounded by religion for the rest of my family. My parents always encouraged me to learn and broaden my understanding of faith, religion, and spirituality. I'm still a very spiritual person, even though I don't hold a specific faith. And though I don't hold a specific faith, I respect and admire those who do. Though I can only speak for myself, I find my spiritual background has only encouraged me to educate myself and when conversing with others on faith. I've never been super comfortable speaking about God because I've never wanted to offend anyone. It's been something that I've been hesitant in speaking on, but Musa gave me this opportunity, and I decided that, you know what, I wanted to come and learn, and I wanted to come and have new experiences with other people. So I've been having more and more open conversations about sensitive issues, being a part of the Human Rights Education Volunteer Group on campus. And having open conversations has really allowed me to broaden my perspectives and have these important conversations with people who have different ethnicities, different backgrounds than I have. And I'm so grateful to have met the people a part of that group of different backgrounds. And there are so many different voices to be heard and cultural experiences added to those conversations. So I hold a kind of privilege as a white woman, and a privilege I am still learning about, honestly. And which is really strange to me because I thought, I'd learned privilege 3 years ago in a women and gender studies class, and now that I'm having these open conversations with people of different ethnicities and background, I'm learning more and more, and I'm being humbled more and more every single day. And like I said, though I do not hold a specific faith, my strongest belief is that kindness, education, and vulnerability are so important. So my uncle passed, like I said, a couple months ago, and I came home the other day, and my blanket, which is a very important blanket to me, it's my baby blanket, was laid out perfectly on my bed. I did not leave it there. I don't know what did, but I did not leave it there. So I immediately called my mom. And I'm like, Mom, what does this mean? Because she's always kind of trying to find, some significance. And she said that because I reached out to my Auntie Kristen and the boys, who were my uncle's wife and kids, that it was my uncle telling me that he, was thanking me and appreciating that. And that night, I had a dream that my uncle came to me and told me that it had been him. And that was a very spiritual moment for me, waking up, and affected me very emotionally. So I'm going to just leave you guys with one last remark. I'm from a Ukrainian background, and again, one night at my uncle's big family gathering, he I learned about a tradition where you leave a candle in the window, and leaving that candle in the window means that you can welcome anyone in. So any straggler, any stranger can come on into the house. And one more last closing remark. So basically it means that your home is open to any traveler and all they have learned. The kindness to accept anyone and any stranger with open arms and a warm plate of food. So yeah, that's kind of, I love it.
So I'll start with introductions. My name's Jack Yo. I'm a third-year biomedical engineering student here at UVic. I have lived on the island all my life, and I am an atheist. I don't believe that there is a higher power. I kind of hate the term atheist because it doesn't really describe anything. It doesn't. Saying that if a theist is someone who believes in a higher power, then an atheist is quite literally just not that. It doesn't, and even from theism, as we've seen, there's a very diverse group. And I gotta keep speaking in this thing. There's a very diverse and widespread group with many different views and opinions on everything. And in the same way as with atheism, the only thing you can really get us to agree on is that we're not theists. Yeah. So for me, so I can only speak for me. Yeah, we've already heard an agnostic speak up, and again, just very diverse group we are. And there's a certain problem with saying that I don't believe in God or gods. And that problem is that it doesn't answer the tough questions that we are faced with as humanity. It doesn't answer where did we come from, why are we here, what's the purpose, and what's the end goal, what's the end game. And yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow every day. And right now, I don't have answers for those questions. And feel free to correct me, but I think the quote, the old Socrates said something along the lines of, "I'm the smartest man in the world because I know that I know nothing." I don't know the big answers. Man, really? Wow.
Time for answer.
Okay. And so I don't know. And for me, I go around every day interacting with people and finding out and just hearing their stories, discussing with them. And if they don't have the answers that we need, that's perfectly fine. Hop aboard. You're not the only one. I don't know the answers, but let's all find out together. Thank you.